Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to DE Podcast number 2. We made it past the first one. Yeah. With me here, I have Matt, aka Spirit Sage again,
So,
and no Yoho today. He retired, I guess. He's taking the package of, I don't know, slice of paper. So,
he's like Star Trek movies. He just comes in every other one, so it's good.
yeah. So, hopefully this time I'll have 50% less ums and ahs for everybody. I watched that and cringed and was like, oh god, I'm such an idiot. Oh
And
man.
100% less echoes.
Yeah, and less echoes too. So, small steps, baby steps, but we'll get there. Today we tried doing Google Hangout to use that for the video. Yeah, no luck. No luck at all. No love from Google. I don't know if they changed it or if it's just my technical ineptitude, but I'll try and figure that out for next time maybe. So we'll just have to use Skype today.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, so I'll get the job done this time. So I guess first things first. Then there I go. DE news. There is not much to report today. Yeah, really not much. I'm pretty much heading up the Killzone division now. Infinite Crisis, Matt here doesn't even know this, has been put into what we call group status. Wing had to explain this to me, but pretty much it just means that we're not actively recruiting right now. Anybody who wants to join Infinite Crisis, whether it be current DE members or new people, you're more than free to. We're still taking new people. We're just not actively recruiting, at least until it hits open beta. It's been pretty much a pain getting people in that we don't already know. Most of the players I see on there, I know in some capacity, and therefore it's really hard to get them. So that's that with Infinite Crisis. I've moved to Killzone for the time being. Currently looking for officers, have a couple good people in mind, but yeah, not much else there to report. Yeah, we have new news division. Matt is now the head of the news division. So,
Yay!
congratulations to you. And the amount of work you'll have to do on that, I don't know. But
Well, we'll have to see. I'll have to talk to some people, and we'll get an idea again of what exactly we want as far as daily news, weekly news, what the focus is, and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
definitely to expand the brand, having a news section is very important. So I'm looking forward to doing my best to help out with that particular capacity and see where else I can fit in and other DE areas depending on how everything expands. Which there's so many different things going on right now as far as rebranding and expanding that
yeah,
I'm sure there'll be many opportunities to really get in there and
yeah.
make your
And
mark.
we're looking to bring in still some more guilds who are currently active in some other games, whether it be WildStar Beta. There's a couple communities that kind of don't have a site or anything that we're trying to bring into the fold. I believe there was a Call of Duty one. I don't remember if that fell through already or what was going on with that, but we are trying to bring definitely a lot more people into the fold, and therefore, yeah, it's going to be a lot on there. And yeah, so pretty much gaming news. It sounded like I actually want. What do you kind of see doing with I guess the news stuff? Like, what kind of content do you look forward to putting up on there?
Well, I really, and I've said this off mic before to you. I really like the way that Penny Arcade Report sets up their news section in that they will have 1 or 2 days or 3 days a week where they will put up an editorial article that is actually the person, like I think it's Ben Kuchera, writes the article, and it's something that's brings people in. It's sometimes it can be dramatic, but it's something that's a controversial issue that a lot of people are going to talk about. And so you get page hits, you get people that are interested in that particular issue commenting, liking, and sharing, and so on. And then the rest of the time, they will have links from other different pages, because obviously, there's no one person in the entire world that can sit there covering every
Yeah,
aspect of any news, especially video game news, because there's so many different things that are being talked about all the time. So being able to, kind of funnel that down, pick the stuff that's the most interesting. Obviously, if there's any Dark Enforcers related stuff, that will be the first thing that goes on the page. But also just having stuff that is able to be found by other people, that is interesting to both the group of people we have now, and also will bring the kind of people that we want to the page, which will then hopefully lead to more people wanting to join Dark Enforcers and understanding what Dark Enforcers and the brand and the community is all about. So, some of the things that I'd like to post about, and we'll see what other people are interested in. Obviously, right now with the PS4 and impending Xbox One
Right.
launches, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about with that. Not just the technical aspects, as far as the issues that are more than likely going to happen on Friday with that launch. Lots of new games coming in right now. I personally love different parts of video games. Like we're into very many of the same kind of games, like RPGs, fighting games, and stuff. I like to analyze different aspects of that, from soundtracks to art style. Like not going into a review process so much, but just taking something and saying, "Hey, isn't this really cool about this game?" Like, for example, isn't Shadow of the Colossus's art style really interesting, and how did that like impact different things in the future and whatnot?
Right.
So stuff like that, and then just also taking suggestions from other people, because I'm sure there's going to be other people that want to, or that find something that they're interested in that they'd like to share with people. So it's a kind of like an open canvas, blank canvas that we can go in a lot of different directions with.
Right on. No, that's really cool. Definitely a gap that we've needed to fill for a while is our news content. Up to this point, for people who don't know, it's been up to division leaders to do that news content. So, on top of having to do the normal things we have to do, like recruiting and maintaining, like checking in with officers, all that garbage, we also have to do the news stuff. We also have to do what we call quality control checks on the other divisions to make sure. Anyway, I won't bore you, but yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and if we can have somebody
Time.
specialized in doing the news stuff, then that's not only better for us because we can spend more time on the areas that are more what we're brought in to do, but also we can do potentially better news content because we have a person that's focused on doing that. It's not just getting on there and rushing out a news story so you can say you did your news story for the week or whatever. It's somebody who's actually on there. That's their purpose. So yeah, hopefully that brings better quality stuff for us and gets us out there more. Like you're saying, apparently Google works on the updating, like how frequently your website updates or something like that.
Sorry, what were
Uh,
you? What do
so
you?
Google search engine, you were saying the other day.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, now I know what you mean. Yeah, basically, and I don't claim to be a Google expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have researched it, spent time on it with like search engine optimization,
Mm-hmm.
meta tags, keywords, and all that sort of stuff. And one of the Google's algorithms that for a long time was there, and I'm assuming is still there, is as you update a page. So, like for example, you have a blog about whatever, like let's say just video games for the sake of argument. If you have just a static web page that has something about video games, even if you get like 100,000 page hits or a million page hits on it, if there's not dynamic content that's constantly being updated, it's still going to be usually seated lower in the whitelist, which is the all of Google search that isn't the ad searches that are like the kind of yellowish background stuff that
Right.
you have in like the top, the side. That's pay per click. That's completely different stuff. But the whitelist stuff, you'll be seated lower. I mean, it takes time anyway. Like Google basically wants to see a few things. It wants to see how long have you been there. Are you established? So if you had this blog for like 10 years or something, how often are you updating it? It can't just be with like crap. It can't just be like the same post 1,000
Yeah.
times. It has to be, it searches those sort of things, and then how prevalent, and then it factors in how prevalent are you in the community, how many page hits are you getting, how many comments, how many links, shares, and stuff with other pages are you getting. So I think it's really important that having a blog that has quality content that's related to what we're about,
Right.
obviously, and then is something that we can churn out on a somewhat regular basis, all those things contribute to having Google, and not just Google, but other search engines and other places as well, want to pick up this content, which means it's more likely that if someone's searching for something like gaming news, like for example,
Right.
they're able to find our page or at least want to click on our page. And then once we get there, if they're hooked on the stuff that we have, then they're more likely to go, hey, I want to share this. Hey, I like this. Hey, I'm going to link back to this for my own blog. Or, hey, I'd like to join this community because it's kind of cool.
Right.
And I don't want to keep bringing, Penny Arcade back to it, but I find that that's a really, really good example of something that started small, added some things, and once it was able to get the content there, then people started coming, and once the people started coming, they were able to expand proportionately, which got more people coming, and it's just kind of like a snowball effect, basically.
No, yeah, that's a good way of doing it for sure. Like, there's nothing wrong with copying somebody who's clearly successful. Like, PAX, they have what, 3 of those, I think, going anymore now per year. So
yeah, they have one West Coast, one East Coast, one Australia.
Oh, okay.
They might have another one too. I don't follow everything about it, but I know you mean.
So,
it's really, really big.
If you're gonna copy somebody, definitely copy somebody who's successful, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and just for clarification too, any of you division leaders out there, doesn't mean you don't have to nor can you write news articles anymore. You still know your games better than anybody, so please still bring that content in, and we'll merge that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I thought that's what I would like to see anyway. And again, I'll have to talk with the higher ups to figure this out. But they can tell me what the new hip happening things are in their game. What is stuff that they need to get out there to not only DE members but just people in general that may not be known from the outsider layman that just kind of plays the game every once in a while, or maybe doesn't play the game at all. I can then take that and formulate it into a way that it's out in a news post, people can see it, but then the division leader doesn't have to sit there for like an hour and a half trying to figure out how to write it and put it all together. They can spend that doing something much more productive to their division or like the back end stuff.
So that should work out well, I think, and I'll be really, really interested to see what kind of content comes out of this and how it all merges. See what changes it brings on. It should be very exciting, I think.
I'll do my best.
No pressure. No pressure.
Oh, it's okay. It's not like I've never written before in my life. What am I doing?
But yeah, I think that's pretty well it for the Dark Enforcer stuff. Like I said, not a lot of stuff, mostly because little thing, like about that small. PS4 it launched, and you may or may not have heard, and therefore that's kind of distracted everybody. Everybody's trying to figure out this new system, trying to get new members on it, and all that good stuff. So that's kind of slowed things down a bit, but we kind of not intended, but expected that to happen. But yeah, that is pretty well that. So if you want to move on to just the gaming stuff now.
Sure.
Sounded like you had a bit of content for that I'll be interested to go over.
Yeah, let me just jump onto the first one, the one that I think is the most interesting anyway, and that would be, actually let me go into chat here and send you the link so that you're going to the right one on you're doing screen share, right?
I'm
or sorry, not screen share, but you're going to be able to show the link on your page when you're doing it, or are we not doing that?
I can show the page once I bring it up, yeah.
Okay, I'll send it to you in chat, and that way you can bring it up, assuming that you're able to do that, just so that you have the right one on the page.
Yep.
Basically, it's a games and learning article, and I'm not going to read the whole article. It's very interesting, but basically the summary of it is a UK company that was doing a study with 11,000 kids. Actually, I guess University of Glasgow is the UK, Scotland. So they found out that through this study that gameplay over a long period of time, even when kids are very young, has no negative impact on them. Like a lot of people, parents and various other activists and whatnot have been, especially the government of various places, have been like, games are going to cause you to go out and like shoot people, like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. They're going to go out and steal cars and kill people and do all these other things that are immoral or unethical or whatever. And what this study is basically saying is that it's not having the kind of behavioral impact as people maybe assumed it would.
Right.
So like if you go down to like the key findings section, maybe that's the best section to kind of highlight. It's like
No,
partway
okay.
down the page, like where it's saying like exposure to video games had no effect on behavior, attentional, or emotional issues. Watching 3 or more hours of television at age 5 did lead to a small increase in behavioral problems in youngsters between 5 and 7, but again, like with that study, that could be a lot of different things. I mean, kids at that age, there's all sorts of different things, and you don't know what the whole study is talking about.
Yeah.
Like you can download the study at the bottom of the page, I think. Um, and then it says like neither television nor video games lead to attention or emotional problems, and there was no difference between boys and girls in the survey, which actually was probably the most interesting thing because, of course, now gaming is, I think
That's
if
huge.
you include all casual games and everything, females outnumber males by quite a bit in gaming. Now, hardcore gaming has still been a traditionally
Yeah.
male-dominated area, but I think that's more just because it's kind of like an old boys club, not because there aren't a lot of girls that would want to get into it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, well, this is the way it was, so we're gonna make sure you don't get in because blah 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 or whatever. So which is crap, but it takes a long time to get through that. And I mean, I have other articles I'll bring up at another point that talk about that, but I just found that particular article pretty interesting,
Yes.
just from a general gaming standpoint.
Especially with all these stuff that happened in the U.S. over the last year or so with the school shootings and whatnot, and
Yeah,
then Obama had to address the whole situation, and he called for further study, I do believe, on the matter. It was pretty well his ruling was that they didn't have enough to really, politically interfere with the industry at this point without further knowledge. And
yeah,
yeah, so this definitely flies in the face of that. Now, there's 15,000 studies that come out per day, and all of them
yep,
counteract one another. So it can be really hard to try and find the path in the midst of it all. But this is definitely, you know, something that's more positive for than what we're used to seeing about gaming.
well, it's one of those things where it's like you got to follow what feels right for you.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if you sit in front of a TV playing video games like 12 hours a day every day, it's going to have
Yeah.
an effect on you. If you do anything for that amount of time, it's going to have an effect on you. So it's, thinking about it's like gambling or something like that. It's like do it in moderation. If you feel
Yeah.
like you're doing too much, or if you feel like it's causing you to have issues, then, take action appropriately to deal with it. Like I know part of the reason why I don't play games like a few hours before I go to bed is because I'll start dreaming about them. And they're like the most wacky dreams ever, and I'm just like I don't really want that. I like to sleep, not wake up and think that I'm still playing some game and whatever. So
Yeah.
it's all about
Yeah, that's definitely would be crazy. But
yep.
I was gonna say
Are
something
you
now
gonna?
I can't remember what the hell it was.
Well, we
Hate it
can
when that
figure it out later.
happens.
Yeah. Oh well. And then that was the main gaming thing, and then I have three interesting links. I'll go with the Fallout 4 one first. If you do you need me to link it to you, or do you have it?
Oh no! Well, I remember what I was gonna say, but no, throw me the link and I'll bring it up here for sure. I was just going to say
Okay.
though that, yeah, pretty much like you said though, anything in moderation, like if you do too much of it, it's gonna have effect, right? Most likely negative if you do too much. So, gaming, like I've seen lots of times where I'd be at like a cousin's house who has a couple kids herself, and they'll be watching TV, and if it's something like, I don't know, Power Rangers or whatever, like they'll start running around the house going hiya, like kicking random things and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just like
Imitation.
video games. Like video games don't have a magical power to make people fly off the handle and start doing anything more than I find TV shows or movies would do. So
Yeah, kids at a young age, they're gonna mimic anything
yeah,
they
that's
see.
the
So
thing.
it's just understanding that there are ESRB ratings on games for a reason, and that it's good to be informed about that. If you have young children, you're not just gonna throw anything in front of them because you don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, it
Yeah,
could cause issues. It may
and
not. I mean,
and
it's
every
just
kid's
depends.
different, right? Like
Yeah,
some kids are can watch more violent things or what have you, and not be affected, or at least not to like a radical extent. As for some kids, it's like they're high strung to begin with. Never mind exposing them to something that's more adrenaline rush related. So
Mm,
yeah, it's like it just depends on the person, right? Everybody's different, and what
exactly.
one
Yeah.
person reacts to could be entirely different than another. So yeah,
Yeah, that's life for you.
yeah,
So, moving on, something that I found particularly interesting because I love this series is Bethesda has now trademarked the Fallout 4 name in Europe, at least to start with,
yeah,
which very likely is going to mean that Fallout 4, if not already being in production, is going to start being in production in the near future. Usually, when they trademark a name, they want to do it around the time that they've got a conceptual idea,
yeah.
but maybe are not that far. Like they're not probably not in an alpha stage or anything like that, but they want to make sure that someone else doesn't try and steal the trademark. Even though I don't know how you could do that without getting infringed upon at this point, because Fallout in general is already trademarked
Yeah,
by
I don't know why you need to trademark necessarily Fallout 4. Like a lot of companies I see trademark like the name of their game and then the number's just a number. Like Killzone, it specifically shows the trademark after Killzone. It doesn't say Killzone Shadowfall trademark. So
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know.
So anyway, well, there's so many different examples, right? Because you look at the reason why Mega Man is called Mega Man in North America. It's because there was a game, I believe, for the Atari or something like that called Rockman,
Oh
which was
yeah.
the original Japanese name, and so they had no choice. Capcom
Mm,
did, but to change the name to something else because they were going to get sued for
yeah.
trademark infringement or copyright infringement, whatever it is. And so they changed it to Mega Man, and that's been Mega Man ever since. Even though in Japan it's still Rockman for the entire
Yeah.
for everything. So, and of course, there's a whole backstory to why he's called Rockman in the first place, like rock and roll and bass and treble and all these different names and stuff. But anyway, we got off the topic. Basically, I love the Fallout series, and I'm really excited to see what Fallout 4 has to bring in. I will fully admit I liked Fallout 3 a lot more than I liked New Vegas. New Vegas had a lot of cool things about it, but it wasn't the type of game I enjoy. I totally understand a lot of people would have rather had it like that, but I would say my favorite game in the series is still the first one. I'm very much in that kind of like Baldur's Gate, top down,
Okay.
like as I was talking about last week or whatever it was we were doing the last podcast. When I was plugging like Avedon and Avernum and all these
Right.
games. That's like the prototypical kind of game I like. So I felt like Fallout 3 followed it a little bit more, especially as it was done by Bethesda, which of course does the whole Elder Scrolls series. So it was very parallel to the kind of graphical engine they were using, and I think it was Oblivion at the time.
Which is interesting too. Like I know a lot of people like New Vegas also because they kind of brought back the like the twisted humor aspect from the old Fallout's. Fallout New
Yes.
Vegas is written by the writers of the original ones, so I think a lot of people like it for that reason. Though I do think
I would
Fallout
agree
3 is
there. Yeah.
probably the better like gameplay game. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
both of those games were just like they did not want me playing them. Like New Vegas had crashing issues, like that's no secret, and so there's that. And Fallout 3, every time I went to play that goddamn game, I always specialize in like rifles or something like that, and there'd never be any goddamn ammo. I kill people and they drop maybe 2 bullets, and it's like it took 5 to kill them, or like the stores would never have ammo even though they restock. They'd still have like 10 bullets. It's like, thanks, I waited a week for 10 bullets. This is great. So it's like I just get screwed in that game every time it seems.
Well, that's what you get for playing a ranged character in a game that was basically designed to play as a ranged character.
I don't know what it was. And
Oh,
then
right.
I played the game 2 years later, right? I went back to it after I got an upgraded PC, played it, and it was fine. It was like ammo was not like available to the point where I could just shoot all day wherever I want. Like I still had to aim my shots and be careful, but
Yeah.
like that's what I was doing before, and it never seemed like I had anything. So I don't know. It was just like after 2 years of the game, it was like, okay, you can play it now. You have our permission. It was like you can now progress.
Yeah. To a degree, that's kind of like how Demon Souls was to me. Is that I would have um, now I'm probably gonna get Demon Souls and Dark Souls confused, but whatever it was that gave you more likely chance to drop stuff. I know there was the ring, and then there was something else. I know being human as well. But whatever it was, I had it as high as I could get at that point in Demon
Okay.
Souls, and I could not get the drops that I wanted at all,
No.
like through the entire game. I wasn't farming; I was just running through with that stuff, trying to get
Yeah.
drops, and then I go into New Game Plus and was decided, okay, I'm going to play online. I'm going to just mess around. So I died a lot, and I was in like undead mode or whatever it was
Yeah.
called, and didn't have that ring on because I wanted other stuff. And then I was getting drops all over the place. It was like, okay, so the potential for it to drop is way lower, and yet it's all dropping for me. So it's like, RNG is so crazy in some of these games that
Yeah.
it's just like, to some degree I like it. To some degree I'm like, I would rather have more control over things, especially a game like that where I'd like to be able to, maybe speed run it or something
Well,
like that.
you think they'd set at least a determined range of which it works within, right? So you have like a
Yeah.
min and a max, or at least a minimum, and then you randomize within that range instead of just having it completely random. And then you have people who specialize in a gun that you can't get ammo for and gets ruckus.
Yeah. Well, and it's I really like, and this is going way back and getting kind of into a niche topic, but I watch a particular person that does Zelda 2 speedruns, Adventure of Link, and there's a drop counter that they have for small enemies and big enemies, and
Right.
the way it goes, kill a certain number of each one in a pattern, you can force a drop of a particular
Yeah.
item at a particular point. So if you want experience potions, if you want like full health or whatever, you can force them at certain points of the game, and that's one of the things you do in speedrunning. So I really like that kind of style. That if they could apply that to other games, where you're like, if you kill X amount of this particular kind of creature, you know that eventually within this range you're going to get this. And at the very worst, you get it on like the 10th one or the 20th one or something. Not just like you could go 50 and not get one, or you could go 10 in a row and get one each
Yeah,
time.
I think that's more what they did with Dark Souls. So I think the one you're talking about before was probably Demon Souls, because I know in Dark Souls it does work more like that, because I would kill like the guys who had the anti-toxin stuff, and more
Oh,
often
the
yeah,
trees.
like you would get that after so many kills. Like I don't remember there ever really being a time in Dark Souls, at least for me, where I would never get a drop that they're supposed to be dropping. Like sometimes it might take a little longer than another, but it was never really got to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah, it was definitely more plentiful in Dark Souls, especially like certain enemies, like the trees that drop the glowing moon, something or other that you needed to
Yeah.
counteract toxins from stupid people down in Blighttown. So I like that idea. Like to some degree, yeah, you could get a couple of runs where maybe you've killed 10 and you don't get any, but then you'd get like a few from the next day. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're programmed into the RNG to be more forgiving the longer you go without a drop, but that's kind of the
Yeah.
way that I'd like to see. So yeah, looking forward to Fallout 4. Hopefully, I will have a PC that can run it at that point, because I'd rather play it on PC than console. But that's just kind of me. I'm sure it will run okay on console. Like I played Fallout 3 on. I think I actually played it on the 360. I think I had it on the
Oh yeah.
360 at that point. So yeah, and it played fine. So no complaints with that. I guess we can move on to the next one, which I will send you the link to here. Which is a game that is a franchise that is very close to my heart. I know some people absolutely hate it, and some people swear by it, which is EverQuest, and the newest iteration. I guess you could call it technically the third or fourth MMO for EverQuest, called EverQuest Next, depending on if you count the PlayStation Online Adventures thing that they had for PlayStation 2 Online for a while. Anyway, I count it as the third one. And the cool thing about this, other than the fact that it's coming for the PS4, which is what this article is talking, or well, it's supposedly
Yeah.
coming for the PS4. They didn't confirm it, as he says in the thing, but not only that, but what they've also done, and I watched this in the Petty Arcade report video, which I can't remember. It has the two people. It's on like the top right of the screen. It's like a 4-minute long video. You can see it in the Penny Arcade website. Basically, they talked about how if you want now, it's like EverQuest Next. I'll go back to the beginning. EverQuest Next is a free online game when it comes out. They're trying to make it kind of like Minecraft combined with some Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So you have a lot of stuff that you can move around,
Hmm.
build, have all these different tools and stuff to manipulate like Minecraft. But at the same time, they still add in all the mechanics like having classes and different
Right.
abilities and stuff that you can have. And they're trying to put the two together and kind of make it into like a sandbox game that has a little bit more structure than the average sandbox game. What they've also done now is, which some people got mad about, is they've allowed access, preferential access, into the alpha build of the game right now for I think it's $70 for like buying a founders pack or
Oh,
whatever. They
okay.
have a couple of different options for it, and so some people are like, wait a minute, this is a free game that I can just wait X amount of months and get for free and play whenever I want and do whatever I want with, or I can get into an incredibly less developed version of that game that probably has all kinds of crap going on in it for $70. And that obviously people are going to be kind of mad about that, but other people are like, well, wow, I can get into this game super early. Like usually you'd have to have like a friend that was a developer or something to get in an alpha or something like that, or be like really well connected. This allows you, if you have the money, and again, it's kind of like a tier system. If you have the
Yeah.
money, you can do all this stuff. If you don't have the money, well, I guess you're SOL until the game comes out. So it kind of it's kind of a topic for debate. I like that it's an option because I played EverQuest for better part of a decade. I want to say I started like a couple of months after launch, like and I loved the game. I loved how hard it was. I loved how primitive in many respects it was. It was one of the very first 3D games, period, let alone 3D MMO games that required you to play online and all this stuff. And every once in a while, I'll still play it. So I'm really looking forward to this game and hoping that it's a lot better than EverQuest 2, which I felt like they just dumbed it down and made it very much like World of
Yeah.
Warcraft. I didn't enjoy it at all. So knowing, I come as well from Minecraft and not as much as EverQuest, but I enjoy Minecraft, and so I'm hoping that this merging of these two concepts will be pretty cool. And if I could play it on a console, that would be cool too.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't be surprised if it does come to PS4, especially with Sony is definitely trying to get as much content on it as they can right now. It seems with they put Planet Side 2, which is their own FPS sort of like open world thing. They put that on there already. They put DC Universe Online on there, and they upgraded all the graphics of the game. It actually looks pretty damn good. And yeah, so they got both of those in there. This it makes sense that this will go over. I'd be more surprised if it didn't actually.
Yeah, I think it probably will, especially since EverQuest is essentially a Sony online entertainment property now. I mean, it was originally made by Barrett
Yeah,
and 98 Studios a long time ago, but I could be wrong, but I think it is now entirely owned by
I'm
Sony
pretty
Online
sure.
Entertainment. So, they can basically do whatever they want with it if they've got all of the copyright and whatnot
And
for it,
as for like
which
the,
is
oh no, go ahead, man.
no, I was finished with that topic, so you can
I was
finish
just going to say
showing.
with the founder packs, it's not really surprising as a lot are doing that stuff now. Infinite Crisis does it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because it allows you to get some things by sponsoring the game. You're basically saying ahead of time, hey, this is a cool concept for a game. I would like to see this game exist. Therefore, I'm helping these people by donating X amount of dollars that I want to donate. And then in return,
Yeah,
not only do I get the game, I also get all these cool extra things that I wouldn't have got if I was just buying the retail version of
that's
the
just
game.
it. Like I was looking at it, it's like you get like some items, some special flag thing, and a couple costumes. So you are getting content for it as well as the early access. But yeah, that's the thing. It's completely optional. Like if you don't want to pay, then don't pay, right? But
Yeah,
I know
definitely.
people with Neverwinter's actually a good example. It had Founders Packs too. It's also a free to play MMO. And yeah, you could give them money for extra things like mounts or I don't think there's costumes, but items and things like that. And yeah, it's like Neverwinter has a lot of fan of the books. It has a lot of D&D player fans. So there's people who are willing to just pretty much hand that money over just because they like the franchise, right? And I think EverQuest, I'm not sure how many fans it still has, but I know that I have the Sony online server app on my phone, so I can check
Yep.
like if DCUO is up and whatnot. And one of the listed servers on there is EverQuest 1 and 2, and I'm not sure. I know one of them's usually like 25% active still, so it does have
Yeah,
its people.
it's still got a fair amount of people on it. It's definitely shrunk from its heyday, which obviously with World of Warcraft coming out way
Yeah,
back 2004, it took a lot from it. And there's we could get in. That would be a whole other topic of conversation we could cover for another podcast. Um, so the last thing I wanted to just bring up, and hopefully this will, although it's not a hardcore thing by any stretch of the imagination, it's something that I enjoy because I am a Nintendo fan. That was the second system I played after the Atari 2600 when I was very young. And that announcement is that, or not announcement, but that news is that the new Zelda and the new Mario are coming out very, very shortly.
yeah,
And more important, or I guess I could say more importantly, because I'm a very big Zelda fan, have been since the very first Legend of Zelda, which was one of the very first Nintendo games I ever played. Is the Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds is coming out very shortly. I believe, yeah, November 22nd, which is this Friday. Wow, it's on the same day as the
yeah.
Xbox launch. Wow, that is ballsy by Nintendo. I gotta say, I didn't know that. So anyone that knows Zelda: Link to the Past. This game is not a reboot of it per se. It is kind of its own thing, but is very much in that vein of the Link to the Past. And having not played it at all, obviously, because it's not out yet, I can't review it. Although there was a review that I saw online that
IGN
was
has
giving it
theirs
really
up.
glowing. Yeah, they were giving it really glowing marks and saying not only is this, even if this was just made as like a remake of that game, it's amazing, but it didn't stop there. It actually went in and did its whole other thing, kind of like what Wind Waker did for Zelda back like a decade or something ago.
Right.
And a lot of people I know still play Wind Waker. It's kind of a love or hate thing,
Mm.
but I know a lot of people still love it. So I really am hoping that they port this. I don't know if this is just for the DS or is this even for the DS? Maybe
It's
it's for the Wii.
3DS, the new Zelda.
Is it
Yeah.
okay? Yeah. So I'm hoping that they will port that or somehow get it so that you can get it on the Wii or the Wii U as well, because I don't currently have any handheld systems,
Right.
just because I was almost never using them at the time that I had them. Like it was back in like the terrible days of handheld consoles where there were like no good games for them, and it was just kind of like, why do I even have this thing?
Yeah, IGN gave it
So
9.4. It looks like.
yeah, which is a very high mark, obviously, because it's at a 10. So
And the new Super Mario
I
3D World got 9.6.
nice. Now that I don't know much about because I haven't done any research
I've
on
seen
that.
I've seen gameplay on it. It's pretty much if you combined, so if you took the new Super Mario Brothers series, the 2D
Yep.
ones, and if you've seen what the Wii U version looks like,
Yep.
take that graphic set and art style, and then just apply it pretty much to like a 3D space, i.e., Mario 64.
Okay.
and,
Nice.
and that's pretty much what it is. Sort of Mario Galaxy-ish, but obviously it doesn't have the round planets and all those other
Yeah.
mechanics.
That took 3D to a very new
Yeah.
level. A little bit too new of a level for me. I'm still back at Mario 64. I mean, I was just
You might like
telling
this one
someone on
then.
the forum. Yeah, I was telling someone on the forums a little bit ago about that's probably my favorite Mario. Mario 3 and Mario 64 are probably tied for my favorite. People, just so many people still play Mario 64. Something about the Nintendo 64, it had almost all the first-party games or the good third-party games are still played so much today compared to so many of the other systems where they've come and gone.
Right. Yeah, so it looks pretty similar to that. The Sorry, I'm just editing scene here. The thing with it is you kind of, so they added these, oh shoot, what were they? An item anyway that multiplies your character. So there's certain
Oh yeah,
certain puzzles where you need, oh right, it's the double cherry, that's what it is. So it doubles your current numbers. So if it's just your character, you get 2. If you have 2 characters on the board, you get 4. I think it only goes up to 4. You can have multiple players. I don't remember if it's only 2 or 4, but anyway. So for certain puzzles and things like that, for optional parts, you need X amount of characters. Now those characters do the exact same thing. Like all, if you have four guys, when you push the jump button, all four of them jump.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you have to try and get your guys from A to B, and of course, usually the tough part is where those puzzles are, where you need the multiple guys, is after you've gone through a bunch of platforming, right? So it's like getting those guys to the end alive, or at least enough of them where you can do the upcoming puzzle. And they're also, when you jump on bosses and whatnot, it's four times the power, right? Or however many you have. So that's
Pretty cool.
the big new power up. The other new power up they're pushing right with the cover even is the cat suit Mario, which from what I've seen is pretty. I don't know. It's like it's effective, but it's too effective, almost. Like
What does it do?
you can so when you jump you can do an air dash at things. You can climb up the environment. Like you can use the closet suit to like climb up walls of the environment. You can even climb up the poles at the end of a stage. So it's like you don't have to make that skill jump, just climb up the pole.
And it's still 2D then, or is it
No,
like it?
it's 3D. There's 2D
Okay.
parts, but
Okay. Because I'm just thinking it sounds a lot like when the Mega Man series went from original numbered Mega Man to Mega Man X, where they're like, here's all these extra things, and then it all of a sudden trivialized certain aspects of the game, and then they had to completely rewrite how they did certain parts of the game because now you can jump, now you can dash, now or
yeah,
jump, sorry, now you can climb walls, now you can dash, now you can air dash, and those things negated some of the challenge that were in the original Mega Man game. So be
yeah.
interesting
Like
how they implemented things
like
in the
I
Mario.
think for like X, which yeah, definitely changed some things, but X is still a pretty solid game, though maybe not as hard.
Oh no, it's a really good game series for
And
sure.
then X4, I think is the one that I think is where they kind of got the powers balanced the best, because yeah, you did have like a lot of strength in with your ability to dash jump and all that, but the thing is when you got later into the game it required you to know that stuff. Like it wasn't just like if you happen to know this then it's easier for you. It's like no, you have to know this now. Where in X it was just kind of like a boon. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I mean, X4 in particular had its own issues,
Oh
like
yeah.
Z Saber canceling, where it's like, oh, I can kill every boss in like 1 second if I'm zero, and I know how to Z Saber
Well,
cancel
yeah,
properly.
Zero's just I
I think
don't
it was
count
four.
that.
I know it was either 4, 5, or 6. Two of them had Z Saber canceling, and one of them didn't quite as much, and they did something else. But anyway, that yeah, it has its own issues, but certainly I know what you mean about how the things that were implemented were implemented in such a way that you were actually using them. They're not just something you can use to bypass
Yeah.
content. If you want to, they're there to be used on a regular
Yeah.
basis, and challenges incorporated them.
So I don't know how this cat suit will affect gameplay, and like is it, from what I saw in the demonstration that I saw, it just made things like really easy, but whether there's stages, I don't know how late in the game it was, probably not very. If the stages later on are balanced to where it's like you got to be proficient with this new power, then maybe it won't be a big deal, but that's yeah, something for
We'll have to
somebody with a
see.
Wii U to figure out.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have one of
Nope.
those. Just a regular piece.
I was watching IGN does a video podcast on Mondays, and I'm not promoting that. Don't watch it. Ours is better.
So you're saying I'm watching this thing and it's
I'm
good,
watching this
but
thing
don't
is
watch
good,
it.
but you
I'm
don't.
watching it for
I'm biting the bullet for you. You don't need to watch it. I got her back. Um, but it was funny because they pointed me towards a study that was done by like a consumer report for the upcoming holiday season, and this consumer report was just kind of pulling people to see what consoles they were interested in, and I liked how they presented this information. Was so in first place was the Wii U. In in 35th place, I believe, was the Xbox One, and then in like 55th place was the PS4. I think it was like, oh wait, no, that's percent, not placings.
Whoops.
It was like, ouch, Wii U 1%. Ouch,
Yeah.
that's harsh. I
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard. Sorry to
No,
interrupt
that's
you. It's
good.
kind of hard now because with the way Nintendo has gone the last couple of console generations, I mean, they had such a stranglehold way back, but
Yeah,
now this other people have come in, and it's not just about hardware because obviously they're completely outclassed in hardware now. It's not about or it's not about just hardware. It's not about just third party because obviously Sony and Microsoft have far better third party support in like every way. Nintendo, what they have is they have really good in-house first party quality games, but a lot of them now are just the same ones. It's like what's the newest Mario? What's the newest Zelda? What's the
yeah.
newest
They just
Yoshi?
announced
What's
a
the
new
newest
Mario Party, so that's apparently going to be a thing again.
yeah, so yeah, and those are great games, but it's if you only have like 10 games
Yeah,
on a system, like Pokemon is another one. If you only have like those few franchises, yeah, you're going to get certain people to buy the system because they like those games. But part of the reason why I buy systems is not just for one game. I know some people will buy it for one game. I want to buy the system that I can get the most efficiency from and go, I want all of these games at some point. This is the system that has the most of them. So this would be the system I'd most likely go with. I mean, that's why I like PC
yeah,
because now with Steam, things like that, you probably have access to like 85 to 90% of the games I want somewhere on the internet that I can get to buy from whatever website or Steam or whatever, which gives me the best bang for my buck. And then I'm not spending X amount of dollars to go, oh, I have one game or two games. And then it's like, I hope I really enjoy those two games
yeah,
because what else am I going to do for 6 or 8 years until the next console generation comes out? And that's really what I feel like Nintendo has kind of done. If they could somehow get more third party support to actually work with these cool, like they're not even gimmicks, they're actually kind of cool things that they
yeah,
do, especially with the Wii U. If they could get more third party support again, I think that would really help them. Because if you look at when they had Rare with them still doing stuff like Killer Instinct, the original
yeah,
one that was good, which the new one may or may not be good. I'm not going to judge that yet. But stuff like the Donkey Kong Country series, like Diddy Kong Racing, Conker's Bad Fur Day, other games like that, and that's just one company.
yeah,
That was really solid support that they could do on top of all the games that they had normally, and that allowed them to maybe put out the odd shovelware game, and people are like, oh, whatever. There's still this other
yeah,
cool game that's coming soon, and that's kind of where they've gone down the tank with it, and we'll have to see, especially with the one big game I know a lot of people wanted to get for Wii U when it had just recently launched was the new Rayman
yeah,
game, and then they pushed it back, and then they pushed it back
yeah,
again, and when they pushed it back again, they also said, oh, well, the reason why we're pushing it back is because we're going to bring it out on this other system, so it's now not only not an exclusive, but it's getting delayed for the people that originally were getting
yeah.
the Wii U for that game, so now they're like, okay, so we're doubly screwed. That kind of sucks for us wanting to support your brand or your system anymore.
Well, I get why they kind of did that though. It's a dick move, but at the same time, I know took why they did that, and it is because the
Oh
Wii
yeah,
U
it's not
numbers were so low, right? And any
exactly.
game launch, the biggest buzz around your game is when it first launches. Like when
Yeah.
not Origins, Arkham City came out on the
Fine.
Wii U. Obviously, it didn't have the buzz around it that it had the year before when it came out on the 360 and PS3. So, when Ubisoft saw how few consoles were out there, they were like, "It's not worth. We're going to sell more if we wait for PS3 and 360 initially than we'll probably ever sell on the Wii U version."
Yeah. No, I agree 100%, and I mean that's the underlying issue right there is that there's the chicken and the egg paradox is
Yeah,
that you need good games to sell
yeah.
consoles, but you need consoles sold in order to make good games worth making for that console.
Exactly, and I think like Nintendo does what they do really really well, and for people who like Nintendo, it's like you're not gonna get like if you like platformers and things like that, you're not gonna get a better experience at either of the other systems. But if you aren't into that, you're kind of screwed. Is the thing, and that's why I don't really have Nintendo consoles. I had a Wii, but if you look at my library of games, it's very unconventional for a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like if you're not into that, you're pretty screwed. And like you said with the N64, they definitely had a lot more variety uh, than they do now.
Yeah, that was kind of like the last. I don't say it's the last hurrah, but that was the last time Nintendo was really Nintendo, and that was on top of the fact that they didn't switch to the CD drives.
Yeah,
And if they had switched to the CD drives in order to appease Square Soft at that point
yeah,
and kept the Final Fantasy
it
series
might
and
have
stuff
been
on
different.
Nintendo, yeah, it might have I mean, Sony might not have been in the
Yeah,
game. Who knows what Microsoft would have done? Nintendo could have been the dominant thing. Now that's obviously hindsight, and it's certainly not the only mistake that people might say Nintendo made. Certainly, Sony and
yeah,
Microsoft made their fair share of mistakes as
yeah.
well. So I think at this point, and I guess we should touch on the fact that the Xbox One is launching on Friday, like I uh,
Yep.
briefly mentioned when we were talking about the Zelda thing, because I mentioned it in the forums, and I'm like, did I talk about this or did I just talk about it on the forums? That the fact that this is the PS4 launched had a fair amount of issues with it is not uncommon for systems launching to have issues with hardware, issues with stuff online, especially with the last couple of generations, because that was really when online was the main focus with it. Before that, it was kind of like a luxury.
Right.
So the fact that Xbox One is coming up, more than likely there'll be issues with launch on that too. And so if people are still sitting out there waiting, choosing between the consoles, saying, do I want a PS4? Do I want an Xbox One? Do I want neither of them? Do I want both of them? I would definitely say hang out, wait for a little while, see how each fares, maybe over like a couple of weeks or a month after their respective launches, and see who's picking up what, who's doing what with them. Because if you have almost all your friends on one of them and not the other, it might be worth your while to pick up that
Right.
system. Or if you don't care about that kind of stuff, then you're just pick whatever you want, and which one is less likely to have issues with it, which we'll have to see once Xbox One launches.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of spilled towards that topic because that is something we should definitely discuss. And one thing that and it is something that we have been discussing in like I don't know, it was like the PS4 problem thread I think on our forums. It's like hidden
Yeah.
in back area, but I think it's really this is something that a lot of people are some more indecisive than others are going to have to decide upon. And basically what I was telling people in the forums is like I was pointing them to a bunch of stuff like they were asking questions on what's the controllers for the systems like and this and that and the other thing, right? And I pointed them to videos, which is fine. But really I find it comes down to the games, right? Like even if Xbox has like okay 360 generation because it's already over, we know where it all stands. um 360 generation Xbox Live was the better service than PlayStation Network. Granted, like I don't think you could really argue that it wasn't, though it was a paid service.
Yeah.
But
So you get what you pay for.
yeah, and
So some.
so it definitely had that, and it had some other things going for it. I know a lot of people like the OS better. I personally didn't. I like things simple and like to the point. I don't need like graphical flash. I just want it to
Yeah.
be efficient. But I get I'm probably in the minority, at least as far as North America goes. So, but the thing is, it does really come down to, I say, is the games. Like that's you're not going to play a system for the OS. You might play videos on it, but any system's going to be able to play videos. Any system's going to be able to play your Blu-ray, DVDs, and whatever. So, look at the games and decide based on that, right? Because you can't play Halo on a PlayStation. You can't play Uncharted on an Xbox, and you know
At least not legally.
I'd be interested to see that mod. Get
Well,
Xbox to
there's
run a cell processor game.
Well, interestingly enough, and I don't want to cut off your topic because I think it's a very good topic, but there is an article, and I'll try and find it, that actually, I think it was on Penny Arcade Report, where they interviewed a guy from Microsoft and said, would you be able to run the PS4 through an Xbox One? And basically he said, yeah, you could if you
PS4
wanted
through
to.
Xbox One, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but the last gen probably not. It was too
Yeah,
specialized. Like the as we talked about off video,
yeah,
the PS3 has just so many unique aspects to
yeah.
it that it's darn near impossible to do. I mean, barely you can barely make games for it, let alone do anything else with it to run it through anything else. So yeah. Anyway, back to what you were
But
saying.
yeah, it's like that. That's really what I find it does come down to, right? Like I like fighting games, and the PlayStation controller. If unless you're using an arcade stick, then it doesn't matter. But PlayStation controller, which is what I use, is far better than the 360 D-pad ever was.
The D-pad
Yeah,
is
it was.
amazing on the PS3.
Yeah, and so I play fighting games and I play JRPGs, and there's some JRPGs on Xbox, i.e. Vesperia early on in its life, which is really
Yeah,
good. But
yeah,
most of them are on the PlayStation console, being a Japanese company, right? Like your Disgaeas and Catherine, which there should have been a Persona, I would say, but anyway.
yep.
So that's why I play PlayStation. It's not because popularity. It's not because of, like I said, OS. It's just you got to base it on what you want to do with it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. I mean,
Like
again,
Sony
you're
and
gonna have
Microsoft aren't going anywhere, so it's like, yeah, so you don't have to worry about, like, oh, did I buy the one that's going to fail. It's like it's neither of them, I would say, are going to fail unless something catastrophic happens.
yeah, which I don't see it happening because both of them have other, and this is the thing Nintendo doesn't really have, although they do, it's not as large. Sony and Microsoft, the gaming division is not their main division of either of
Right.
that. Microsoft does so much other stuff, computer related, like obviously Windows operating system that just about everyone runs these days. Sony makes all kinds of different entertainment equipment. They're into all kinds of electronics. So even if their gaming division for some reason took a hit, they've got all this other stuff
Yeah.
behind them, helping them to prop them up while they do whatever they need to do to iron out the problems. Whereas Nintendo is kind of like their gaming division is not completely it, but it's the main thing I believe
Yeah.
of the Nintendo company. Although correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not. I haven't checked on their stock shareholder stuff to see exactly what
Well,
divisions and stuff they have outside of gaming right now.
yeah, like they do own, like, actually, like, hotel branches and things like that in Japan, but the main thing is obviously gaming. But I've looked at some of their details before, and pretty much they can go without making a dollar for the next 10 years and still be like feasible company. So they're
Well,
not in a tough spot by any means.
well, it's not bad then, but yeah, we'll have to see how all that goes, and especially I like how it influences the PC culture, especially with the 36 or sorry, not the 360, the Xbox One and the PS4 really going to more of a PC architecture.
Mm.
I think that's going to help with PC games because now if you
Yeah,
have
it'd be easy to
a
port it.
game that's ported, you can say, okay, one, the graphical processors and stuff on these games on the console is not going. They're not going to have to make it twice, like make a really nice one for the PC and then make a lesser not dumbed down version, but you know what I mean, like lower fidelity or whatever
Right.
version, lower resolution version for the console. Now they can just make one, which will allow them more time to hopefully make a better game. Which then, if I have a better system, I can still play it on a higher resolution than maybe the console could, but it's still a really, really good game that they put a
Yeah.
lot of technology into, and that there shouldn't be like a bajillion issues. Because I know stuff like, I want to say Dark Souls, when it first ported over to the PC, there were like all kinds of like little
Yeah.
issues with it, and that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll see less of that
Yeah.
coming from a PC gaming standpoint. But yeah, that's about it for what I had to talk about. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we close it up? Because I think we're over an hour now.
Almost
Closed in
almost
on.
at an hour, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, that was pretty well it. It's just like I said, look at the game, see what's coming up, know the backlog of stuff too, because of course sequels are popular, so you're probably going to see sequels to any big franchise that a company's had in
Definitely.
the past. So, just pick the one that you want to play. Like, I know Sony caught up last generation. Microsoft had a very big lead, and Sony caught up because they do have a lot of studios and a lot of good quality studios, first party behind them. So and unlike Nintendo, and even really unlike Microsoft, their first party exclusives do vary in type a lot, right? Like they have Ratchet and Clank that comes out, but then they'll have like The Last of Us, two completely different games, right? So, and then they had Knack for the launch of the PlayStation 4, but then they had Killzone. So it's like they have a lot more variety. I feel, and that's kind of how they caught up on the international market at least, is through that. So, but yeah, just be informed, and you can't really make a wrong decision as long as you make it based on what you want and not what other people are telling you to buy.
Yeah, so don't listen to us when we say don't listen to
Yeah,
us.
pretty much. Like, take my information, but don't take my
Believe in me that believes in you.
yeah. Do we have any other quotes we can throw out there that make no sense? Probably not.
Mine is the drill that pierces the heavens or
There you
something.
go.
Probably have better Kamino quotes than I would. I haven't even watched the series.
Did you ever watch Heroes when it was on TV?
I might have caught part of it, but I don't watch a lot of cable TV, so probably not.
That's fine. I was just gonna say there's one character, and he was like a doctor in the series, and at the beginning of every episode, he'd have a quote, and season one, which was actually good, it was fine. But in season two, where like the whole show went to hell, the writing quality got really bad too. So it's like all of his quotes in like season two are just like make no sense whatsoever. And my friend Billy and I, we would just like when we talk to each other, call each other in at the end of the week or whatever, it'd be like we'd make it a point to discuss like this week's latest like nonsensical quote.
So
It was
basically, it was just
legendary.
like you just take the character that's saying those quotes, and you could have him like standing there and like say the quote, and then put on sunglasses, and then the Who starts playing, and that's basically what
Yeah,
happens.
it was like
Forget Horatio Kane.
how like crazy these things got was just like it needed to be discussed. They were too entertaining. So yeah, maybe I'll go and look up some quotes for next episode. We'll
And there you go.
leave
We'll have like
that with-
a nice Photoshop, like or not Photoshop, but whatever, like video edited intro that's like, Dark Enforcers, some nonsensical quote that's has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and
I
yet
might do this.
also,
We'll see.
it's also deeply rooted in what we talk about. It means nothing and everything at the same time. It's very much like Infinite Undiscovered.
Yeah, Infinite Undiscovery. My God, that is a game. Look it up if you dare. It's wow. It was a hell of a game to be forgotten, to be undiscovered.
Infinitely.
All right. Well, I guess if that's it, yeah, we'll wrap this baby up. So be sure to get on our forums, darkenforcers.com/forums. Sign up on there if you haven't already. Hit the like button on DE Productions on YouTube. Subscribe, and yeah, we'll be sure to do more podcasts, unless YouTube/Google tells us to cease and desist.
I can't see how they would, but the
Oh,
only
they
issue
do
with
a
that,
lot of
is,
crazy
course,
stuff.
well, yeah, they do a lot of crazy stuff. No, what I say is the issue with a lot of people I watch now that play games on YouTube, or like play games and then upload it to YouTube, is the fact that with the new Google Plus integration, they basically made it so you have to have a Google Plus account to comment and possibly like posts,
Yeah.
which makes it so that if you had like 10,000 fans and only like 100 of them have Google Plus, there goes all your
Wow.
comments. And then, of course, with all the linking that we talked about again on video with, oh, now I can like be Bob. I think it's Bob the Tank. That's the thing that's going around everywhere. It's like this little stick man. It's like, hi, I'm Bob the Tank. Let's take over YouTube or some stupid thing. And then you can have like a link that goes forever. It's like a paid
Yeah,
link.
you
It's
can
called, like,
post like entire movie
link.
scripts in that. It's retarded.
Yeah, someone did that actually. I don't know if it was you that told me that someone. No, it was in one of the comments to
Okay.
one of the things. Someone posted the entire script of From Mice and Men or of Mice and Men or whatever
Yeah.
it's called, the entire script as a YouTube comment to a video. So it just went like if you clicked show more, it just went literally forever practically.
Jeez.
So that was pretty crazy. So yeah, that's I think that's all that I can think of as far as, because we have the Facebook, we have the forums, we have the YouTube,
Yeah.
we have Twitch streams that we can do, but it's on the main page so people can
Yep.
see
We're
that.
going to get all those links on the main page too. That's something that
Yeah.
I want to push hard. And yeah, so expect a lot of changes coming to Dark Enforcer's main site, I'd expect. And look forward to Spirit Sages here news. That's probably going to come up in the next couple weeks. So, all right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. And we'll be sure to be on next Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. And until then.
Later, guys.